April 5th, there were thousands of protests all over the United States. And I saw videos of them all over the internet all day yesterday and today. They were anywhere from a few hundred to tens of thousands of people at these protests. You know who didn't show up? Were people from the black and brown community. You know who else didn't show up? Cops. I didn't see any cops in any of these videos. That is living proof that institutionalized racism is strong and powerful in the United States of America. The system was written for white people. April 5th, with all the protests, is all the proof and evidence any of these deniers need to see. The only time cops will show up to events are if people from the black and brown community show up.
All right, let's take a moment to look back at this weekend on Saturday, April 5th, when
it is giving white supremacy. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're doing well wherever you're at. Just in case you see me for the very first time, my name is Sumi and I hope you do consider subscribing on the channel. In today's episode, we are going to be reacting on a few clips that I've gotten from TikTok, of course. You know very well that on April 5th, we had people protesting in New York City because of Trump government and probably Elon Musk's whatever rules they are putting, and people literally are protesting because they are tired of whatever is happening in America. But it comes out that we found also videos, in case you haven't watched that video, I uploaded it already. Black people said they were not going to show up on this protest because this is not their thing. And besides, 92% did their part when they voted for Kamal. But however, I came across these videos from white people specifically talking about their own, saying that yes, this protest really happened, it was so successful, it was so nice, we didn't have anybody dying. Imagine this man even said there were no cops. Imagine if black people involved, even if they were not doing anything, they were just doing their thing, protesting or doing their things. Imagine if black people showed up. What would happen? Do you think this protest will be successful? They will find all excuses of making this protest not successful. These white people speaking up on their own, and some of them are even scared that maybe something bad is going to come up, because how comes nothing really happened? People are literally scared that, is this even a normal protest? They were expecting, or maybe they are going to be having, tear gas in them, all that kind of sorts. So let us watch this episode together and let me know exactly what you think about it down in the commentary.
that big anti-Trump rally protest, everything nationwide. Come to find out, a lot of those people were paid. In fact, they had some of those posted on Indeed, paid to come and protest. There were other reports of people being videotaped saying, yeah, I get paid to be here for X amount an hour. And it is just unbelievable that, sure, there's still a good majority of liberals and Democrats that wanted to show up to this, but they wanted it to look so much bigger, and so they had to go hire actors. Now, let me tell you, this isn't the first time they've done it. Oh, no. Let me tell you, back in 2021, when Joe Biden came to Rosemont, Minnesota, to Dakota County Technical College, there was a big show up just because Joe Biden was coming to town. And, I attended that because I wanted to show my support for Trump. And that's actually where one of my videos went viral, had over 775,000 views. So you can see it on my pinned. It's super funny to watch. But there was another video I had made where I actually interviewed students at the college, and they said, classes are canceled today, do not come in. But when they did the viewing of for the press and the video that went on the news, they showed a bunch of people there and students, and it makes you just stop and think, how could have that happened? And these students just went off and told me how there were buses of paid actors that came in for this press conferences, but nothing was being covered on the news. And that video went super viral, took off, but unfortunately, TikTok removed it for violating community guidelines, which, what do you expect at this point? But does not surprise me.
People keep saying the hands-off protests were so peaceful, like that's some kind of surprise. But if you're white like me, you need to think about what actually made that possible. White people, you really need to sit with this. The protests were peaceful because we were the ones in the streets. Black, brown, and indigenous folks stayed home, not because they don't care, but for two reasons. One, it's not safe for them to show up. Two, it's not their problem to fix. We've all seen what happens when marginalized people show up in big numbers. Suddenly, it's tear gas, rubber bullets, arrest, and just straight up violence. So yeah, the protests were peaceful, but it wasn't because the system listened better. It's because whiteness made it safe for us to show up. And while we're naming things, let's be real. White people put 45 in office, not black voters, not brown voters, not indigenous voters, us. We built this system. We keep it running, and too many white folks are still clinging to it out of comfort, denial, or fear of giving up power. So if you're white and feeling proud that the protests were peaceful, cool. But ask yourself, what are you doing with that safety your skin gives you? Are you showing up when it matters most, or just when it's comfortable? Because this fight, this is our fight, not just in solidarity, but in accountability. 45 is a white problem. The system is a white problem, and it's on us to dismantle it.
Okay, let's talk protest. It's not a hot take as much as it's something that a lot of you haven't learned yet, for whatever reason that may be, that protests are not for everyone, especially when there are multiple different forms of protest that are created to fit the needs of you as an individual. Socially speaking, not everyone is capable of rallying, standing on the side of the street for 8 to 10 hours at a time, just holding up a sign. There are some people who are not capable of doing that. So we develop different forms of protests, example being boycotting, as a way of driving in the message that your physical protest is supposed to be spreading. Understanding that you live in a capitalist society is fundamental with any form of protest, because what is your protest really doing? Why are you standing on the side of the road holding up a sign? Because we as capitalists are addicted to advertising. That's kind of the point of signs. If you think about what protesting was like back in the 60s and the 70s, it was very different because it was less about the advertising of it all, and it was more about the societal standards that they were trying to dismantle. You can take that even further to the civil rights movement of like the 30s and the 40s, and how that was also much more social, but in a different way than the hippie movement. All this to say that there is never a reason for you to be broadcasting your contribution to a protest, especially because that is very dangerous to say, hey, I am trying to attack the system that upholds the rich. And it's never, under any circumstances, okay to take your children to a protest. At all. Never. That is never okay. And it's less about exposing your children to something that is dangerous, and it's more about the fact of like the people who are there at a physical version of a protest are supposed to have an understanding of what's going on. Hate to break it to you, but your 8, 10, 12, 14-year-old really doesn't have a really good understanding of what's going on. Even I, as a 14-year-old who was arrogant and big-headed, thought I had an understanding of what protests really meant, but now, as an adult, I can say, oh shit, I was definitely misguided. And not ill-intended, I definitely had my heart in the right place, but I didn't know what was really going on. I didn't understand how protests actually was supposed to be affecting society, because I was young. There's nothing more to the fact that I'm just inexperienced. So putting the danger aside, because you are putting your children in danger by being like, why don't we have bouncy houses at protest? That's dangerous, but there's also the fact that like a child is not going to contribute to the protest, especially by your statement being, oh, but I want to have a bouncy house so they have something to do while we do the protests, then they should not be there. And if your counter argument is, well, I'm a single mother and I don't have somebody to watch my kids, then don't do the physical protest and participate in boycotts.